Aminifu is from Virginia, where Nat Turner's rebellion took place. Give him a big hand.
Yeah.
Power to the people.
Power to the people.
Power to the people.
Power to the people.
I may be one of the few people here, maybe the only one who was born and raised in Virginia. So when this thing took place in Charlottesville, I was not surprised at all. Virginia has always been one of the meanest and most wicked of southern states. It was considered the leader of the South and the country in general at one time. And growing up in Virginia, we as students, just young people going to school, we visited all those historic sites in Virginia. Jamestown, Yorktown, Williamsburg. And remember, Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States, is only an extension of Virginia. But, as Brother Wade pointed out, most of what's been said has already been said. But just to remind some of you, most of y'all probably didn't grow up under segregation like I did. Some of y'all did. But, well, the North is easy compared to what we've been through. Now, I know you got the racism in the North, some serious stuff. But, growing up in the South, that stuff was written into law. And when I grew up in Virginia, you might get killed just trying to register to vote. Everything was segregated. When you went to shop, just telling you how it was, that's the way the South was. Oftentimes, if a black man went in a store and tried on a hat or clothes, he had to buy it whether it fit or not. That's how racist and how bad the place was. And when you go into Woolworth or Sears Roebuck or any of them nationally known stores that you shop at now, everything was segregated. You could not eat at the same lunch counter or restaurant as white people did. You know, if you tried to go in a movie theater down there, you would get stopped in the door. Of course, they had white movies and black movies. They used to use the term colored back in them days, or Negro. But the fact is that everything was segregated. In a few places in the South where they might let you into, well, let's say like a white movie theater, you had to sit in the balcony.
Tell it.
You could not sit on the ground floor. I'm just giving y'all a little bit of background. Those of you who don't know, who have not experienced that kind of racism. But those of you who grew up down south like I did, y'all know what I'm talking about.
That's right, I do.
In Virginia, you know, wasn't mean. But remember, I think your first 4 presidents came from Virginia, including Washington and Jefferson. Both of them stomped down racists and slave owners. So Virginia has a long history and a pioneering history in suppressing our people. And we had serious struggles down there. I was born not too far from the capital of Virginia. I was born in Petersburg, Virginia. The seat of now Virginia State College was, but I grew up mostly out on the coast in the Norfolk area, out on the coast. And we had bitter fights down there. When I was 12 years old, I was marching in picket lines. I'm pushing 80 now. But when I was 12 years old, I was marching in picket lines down there where black people could not eat in the restaurants, you know, or use the lunch counter, and all the other indignities that we suffered. Like I said, it was so bad that many of those stores down there, a black person had to be careful about trying on clothes, because whether it fit or not, you still had to buy it.
That's right, that's right.
That's how it was. So when this thing happened in Southampton, Virginia, I was not surprised. And I was glad to see that we were reminded once again of the work that has to be done. I don't have to go into history because everything is already, been said. But I'm one of the few people out here maybe who was born and raised in Virginia and experienced all of that. But all of the South was like that. But Virginia, because of its peculiar place in history, was always considered the leader of the southern states. And we had bitter fights down there. And we had them vicious governors down there. They had something called massive resistance to integration or desegregation. And so we had bitter fights down there. And I mean, they discriminated against anybody black from the family dog down to the house cat.
Tell it.
A black cockroach crawled across the floor. They would say, kill that man. But I had a cracker one time down there. I had a black German Shepherd. I'm telling the truth. I got arrested. They locked my dog up. He looks like a nigga.
Oh, Lord.
I'm telling you, that's how bad it was. But I'm just sharing this with you. But much is said already has been said. So we must continue to study that history. And those of us from the older generation need to share as much information as we can to the generation that's coming up.
That's right.
And yes, like someone that mentioned, you get your share of racism in the North. I'm getting ready to shut up here. But let me tell y'all something. First time I came to New York City was 1955. I might have been about 12, 13 years old at the time. New York City, much as we complain about race in the North, was the first city I ever went where I didn't have to ride in the back of the bus, did not have to sit in separate places on the subway, could go in the movies and sit where I want to sit at without getting arrested. So I'm just saying we have to put all of that in perspective when we talk about the North and the South. The southern part of the United States was like South Africa, if not worse. Back in those days, so make no mistake about it. You got racism all over this country, but in the South, it was etched into the DNA of the place. So let me shut up and sit down. And once again, we have to be thankful to our brothers and sisters.